Shakespeare, the writer, could say, "What's in a name?" But Shakespeare, the IT administrator, will probably say, "To believe or not to believe an identity, that is the question."
You serious?
I think we can all agree we are living in this new digital age which is transforming nations, businesses, our lives. And identity management is the foundational pillar of this new digital age. Digital transformation has brought about a life changing duality of our times, the duality of the physical world and the duality of the digital world. We live in this interconnected, convoluted physical and digital worlds, and identity is the glue that binds all the digital interactions. Digital transformation has and will continue to bring corresponding changes in the identity management systems and services over the next 5 years, which will be as disruptive as the new business models, applications, and the ecosystems that they are supporting. In this webinar, we hope to provide you insights where we believe identity and access management is heading over the next 5 years. We'll talk about newer disruptive models such as DevOps and microservices in identity and access management, cloud based identity and access management, self sovereign identity leveraging blockchain, IoT support, evolving privacy regulations, and governance models. We'll start by introducing basic identity management concepts and then look at some of the technology trends that will have a direct impact on the future of identity and access management. Major influencers being the overarching movement to the cloud, the impact of the Internet of Things, and an increasing exposure of security and privacy models. We'll then look at where the identity and management systems will be heading over the next 5 years and how organizations can best leverage this new era.
Areas of identity and access management focus include cloud-based identity and access management. Most of the innovation in the identity and access management space has been around cloud identity management, shifting the process of authentication and authorization to the cloud, shifting away from passwords. Biometrics are proving to be better than passwords because they are easier to use, provide greater privacy and security, and are gaining standardization across a broad base of mobile, desktop, and server devices that users rely on to access online services. Blockchain based identity systems and self sovereign identity. Digital identity has always been treated from the point of view of the organization managing it and not from the perspective of the user who actually is the owner of the identity. A new approach to digital identity comes with the concept of self sovereign identity, which aims at giving back to the user full control of their identity. Self sovereign identity represents a major breakthrough, the impact of which will extend far beyond what people typically think identity means. Privileged Access Management, or PAM, refers to a class of solutions that helps secure, control, manage, and monitor privileged access to critical assets. To achieve these goals, PAM solutions typically take the credentials of privileged accounts, that is, the admin accounts, and put them inside a secure repository, a vault, isolating the use of privileged accounts to reduce the risk of those credentials being stolen. By centralized privileged credentials in one place, PAM systems can ensure a high level of security for them, control who is accessing them, log all access and monitor for any suspicious activity. Identity and the Internet of Things. As our world becomes more connected, It also becomes more complex. With the Internet of Things, IoT, and a rapid increase in connected devices, the lack of proper identity and access management is a major concern. It leaves devices open to identity thefts, encryption, and unauthorized parties taking control of smart devices like medical equipment. Customer Identity Access Management, or CIM. Customer or Consumer Identity and Access Management is a subset of a larger concept of identity access management and is focused specifically on managing the identities of customers who need access to corporate websites, web portals, and web shops. Instead of managing user accounts in every instance of a software application of a company, the identity is managed in a CIM component, making reuse of the identity possible. The biggest differentiator between CIM and a regular or internal identity access management is that in CIM, the consumers of the service manage their own accounts and profile data. Identity services as microservices. Today, tech giants like Netflix, Amazon, Uber, eBay, Groupon are embracing microservices as part of their technology and business strategies. But it's not just the giants embracing this approach. Companies of all sizes are realizing that microservices are an essential part of their business. Microservices are small, loosely coupled services that make up a larger application. Unlike monolithic architecture, where all services and code are contained within a large and complex application, microservices are autonomous units that deliver on the various components of an application. But where does identity come in, you may ask? While microservices provide ample benefits with regards to agility and productivity, they present a unique challenge when it comes to security. Each individual service requires authentication and authorization support to grant secure access to customers, third-party applications, and other microservices. For organizations looking to adopt microservices architecture, there are various things that they can do to ensure they're implementing a strong and frictionless customer identity and access management practices. Scaling IM. Modern applications are delivering high quality customer experiences and are frictionless, personalized, intelligent, and offer users significant conveniences. In addition, there is a tremendous amount of innovation happening to the underlying technologies. Applications are becoming more powerful and quicker to bring to market with advancement in cloud infrastructure, data proliferation, connectivity between disparate systems through APIs, and a microservices architecture design pattern. All these innovations are changing customer expectations. Not only are customers' expectations changing in how and where they are choosing to engage with businesses, but they are also changing with regards to what they expect the service should be able to do. To meet the high expectation of today's customers, reduce development time of digital experiences, and eliminate potential security gaps, organizations need to put their customers' identity front and center. A modern customer identity and access management CIM solution can do just that. What you will notice is that the overarching theme of identity and access management trends and future is a move towards a more dynamic identity and access management program and models.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining us today and for your interest in our webinar topic of the future trends in identity and access management. I'm Leena Bongale, an IT specialist who's focused on information security and data analytics for over a decade now. I'm currently with TD Bank as the Manager of Data Analytics and Governance. I will be co-presenting with Pankaj Chitrav today. So, Pankaj, if you would want to go ahead and give a quick intro now.
Thank you, Leena. Hello, everyone. I am Pankaj Chitrao and I am working in TD Bank from last 2 years as Senior Software Lead. Microsoft Technologies and myself are friends from past 14 years. One of the things I am most known for is being passionate about learning and working with new upcoming advanced technologies. My working experience includes Jenkins, Octopus Deploy, Elastic Sync, containers, Azure Cloud, GRC tool Archer, PowerShell, and so on. I like agile way of working and I'm agile certified practitioner. I believe that challenges bring out best in me and currently I'm striving and thriving to overcome the most important challenge and that is machine learning. Hope to overcome it soon. Thank you. Back to you, Lena.
Thank you, Pankaj. All relationships begin with identifying who or what someone claims to be, what is known about them, how they interact with other entities in that environment, and what they're allowed to do in the environment. The digital world is full of objects. An object can be physical, such as a person, a device, or a thing, or it can be logical, as in a process, an application, maybe a computer. The identity of the object can be described in terms of its characteristics, and in the digital world, it has to be unique. Object with an associated identity can be a person, a thing, a resource such as an office printer maybe, or a variety of logical and physical things. The identity labels how the object is going to be presented to the world. It can be user friendly, it can be descriptive, or it could be exceedingly complex. It all depends on how this identity is going to be used and who needs to know.
Identifiers or attributes that describe an object uniquely are used to also assess access rights, entitlements, classifications, and a multitude of other services. If an identity is trusted, the attributes associated with that identity are available to multiple applications. Some of the prime motivations for tracking and managing identities come down to gaining an understanding of the identity relationships for the purposes of determining appropriate access and determining better ways to interact and engage with these entities, whether they are employees, customers, partners, citizens, organizations, applications, devices, sensors, or other things. The value of establishing and managing identity within and across organizations and for individuals globally cannot be overstated. It is one of the most fundamental building blocks for any level of communication, collaboration, or commerce within an organization or across the internet. And despite identity's necessity as a foundation, it has fundamental challenges that only get worse as the scale increases, including protecting individuals' privacy and the theft of identity data. Authenticating someone's identity at a high level of certainty can be more challenging, but is an absolute requirement in many high risk transactions. The hard part is establishing that level of surety during initial account creation, a process that has to be better addressed by the enterprise in the future. As a result of the value of establishing and leveraging identity across the internet and within organizations, identity and access management is still perhaps the hottest topic in the realm of information security. It's also an area in which most enterprises, no matter what market segment or vertical they are in, still struggle tremendously. Identity data is scattered everywhere, with identities generally tied to specific applications or services. But the scale today is dramatically bigger than it was 5 years ago and growing exponentially. And there are trust issues on an internet scale. Users, applications, and ecosystems are trying to determine if they can trust that the asserted identity is who or what it claims to be. Associated with that, the risk of identity fraud and identity theft is ever present and growing year on year. The goal of any organization investing in an evolved identity access management program is to usher in a whole new approach to identity and access management that can sustain the pace and scale of digital transformation. Now that I've provided this brief level set for identity management, let's take a look at its future. To give the future of identity management the right context, we need to take a quick look at some of the key trends that will drive internet and information technology over the next 5 years. Most of these trends are not new. They represent existing trends, which, as per industry experts, will continue to be relevant over the next several years. These trends will directly impact the next generation of identity management products and services. Key trends include the internet is extending its web to include almost anything one can think of, from home appliances to cars and refrigerators to traffic lights to sensors monitoring our movements and medical devices. IoT will be pervasive in business with real time monitoring and sensors coupled with advanced workflow technologies, providing greater efficiencies and responsiveness. Almost everything in the physical world can be tagged, accessed, analyzed, connected, and in theory optimized. These devices can be connected to the internet and to other individuals or organizations. But there are complex relationships to manage, personal information to protect, and a plethora of challenging security concerns. Establishing identities for these items and enabling appropriate access for these identities throughout the connected ecosystem is stretching identity to new limits. IoT, pervasive social media, data brokering, and sophisticated predictive analytical engines drive the hunger for and availability of more and better user data. This is further supported by rapid growth of machine learning to better analyze, correlate, and use this data. Big data can also be used to help secure assets and detect anomalies. As more data is collected, it must be correlated in new ways to try to better understand trends and intent. This trend is accelerating with no end in sight. Both IoT and big data, coupled with an increasing thirst to monetize free services, will continue to push the envelope relative to privacy, which in turn will drive increased pushback from individuals and government agencies. Legislative and regulatory controls such as GDPR in the EU are increasing the investment in better privacy and data controls. Major data breaches coupled with increased government regulations will increase the visibility of and trigger investment in privacy. Areas such as self-sovereign identity can also support better privacy if governed properly. Cloud computing will continue to gain momentum and is the primary means of delivering applications and services to consumers and among businesses. Identities are being stored in the cloud, and identity services are increasingly cloud based. Cloud based applications will also store identity information and will authenticate users. Cloud based services are also supporting the movement to DevOps and microservices. Wireless access is increasingly an expectation in most parts of the world and is shaping the applications for both businesses and individuals. access via mobile devices is becoming the first choice as intelligent phones, tablets, and appliances proliferate. The emergence of mobile has had major ramifications for both identity management and security. These trends will accelerate over the next 5 years with smarter and more powerful mobile devices. More and more employees are using their own personal devices rather than corporate delivered systems to access company business and internet based applications and services. BYOD, wireless and mobile, means that identification based on static location or a corporate device is no longer the norm. From machine learning to natural language processing, artificial intelligence and cognitive computing are elevating beyond speech recognition and rules based systems to help organizations consume and derive value from big data and drive decision making through powerful analytics. Given the increasing numbers of breaches, accessibility to personal data, sophistication of cyber criminals, and corporate risk aversion, security and risk programs are given higher and higher priorities in organizations and for individuals. This acceleration has occurred over the past several years and is expected to continue to accelerate for the foreseeable future. As the perceived importance of security increases, there will be corporate organization changes with CISOs reporting to CEOs or boards instead of CIOs. This is a consequence of the visibility and damage associated with personal data breaches, stolen intellectual property, and other security issues. Expect greater visibility, greater funding, and increased enterprise investment in security. Many organizations are moving from the traditional monolithic approach to application development to more Netflix like DevOps and microservices model in which applications are broken down into most basic services and developers are responsible for not just the development but also for the operational support. This type of model is highly scalable and drives more continuous integration and delivery than the monolithic application model that has existed since past several decades. The goal is to provide updates on a daily or weekly basis or as needed, as opposed to waiting for annual or worse for the next release cycles. The underlying technology developed to support Bitcoin has grown like wildfire in the past 3 years and is continuing to accelerate. At its core, blockchain provides a transaction record that doesn't require a central third party to mediate. It's tremendously disruptive and has inherent security capabilities as part of its foundation. The trends just described are influencing today's thinking on the future of identity management. There are increasingly more objects to identify, more data to classify, more connected devices, increasing privacy concerns, regulations, and an accelerating blending of personal and employee data that creates challenges, opportunities for the next generation of identity access management. There are also new disruptive technologies that will become increasingly important in developing and deploying identity services over the next several years. In the coming years, you will observe blockchain, DevOps, microservices, the pervasive movement to the cloud, coupled with increasing data privacy regulation to be particularly relevant to identity services over the next few decades. Also expect innovative combinations of these technology trends in supporting identity services that can improve personalization, usability, and support for both an enterprise and its customer use cases.
Organizations should be planning for a substantial IAM evolution over the next 5 years. Identity systems haven't changed a lot over the past few decades, but the ways business operate and how they leverage technology certainly has. Many of the same approaches to address identity, authentication, authorization, provisioning, data quality, data ownership, and data protecting haven't changed much in a long time, but are due to the substantial upgrade. Solving long-term problems, new challenges are also emerging in managing bring your own device, bring your own ID, social login, and dealing with the increased scale presented by the Internet of Things. We will take a look at how these problems will be solved as well as new opportunities to leverage identity management as a means of better securing our resources. But before identity systems and services are able to scale to meet enterprise needs in the future, they must have the technology and processes to better organize, manage, and serve up the identity data that is already in place. That is why is referred to as the necessary prerequisite for the future of identity management and a key to the ultimate goal of having identity served up like electricity or water is served up in modern cities. This bridge between legacy systems, processes, and newer, more advanced technologies must be there to enable the vision we describe. There are multitudes of new technologies and methodologies that will be a core part of the fabric of identity services over the next 5 years. We will now take a look at the core technologies and approaches seen as critical elements driving successful IAM programs over the next 5 years. We describe the future of identity access management within the following categories. Each of these areas is a significant part of the future of identity access management. They are cloud-based IAM, blockchain-based identity systems and self-sovereign identity, customer IAM, identity and the Internet of Things, privileged access management, identity services as microservices, shifting away from passwords, that is biometrics, behavioral analytics and AI market will grow. The cloud will go single sign-on. The combination of applications, computing power and storage moving to the clouds, pervasive internet access, the evaporating perimeter, the proliferation of Internet of Things, mobile requirements, and the expanding base of consumers of identity are driving a major shift of IAM to the clouds. Even if an organization elects not to move to cloud-based IAM, identities will be presented from the clouds. This will include employee identities, contractors, suppliers, customers, and various trading partners. It is also worth noting that the identities or at least identity attributes established internally will increasingly be consumed by cloud-based services. This may be through federation or simply to verify attributes, but virtually every enterprise will be moving towards cloud-based IAM over the next several years. Technology and business trends are driving the movement of IAM to the cloud. The combination of enterprise cloud-first strategies, a largely disappearing parameter, the proliferation of IoT devices, and the need to integrate external identities are contributing to an accelerated movement of IAM to the clouds. There is also massive proliferation of data to be identified and managed. The proliferation of CRM information, the exponential explosion of IoT data being generated, as well as the explosion of social media based data are supporting businesses that are built on information sharing. The sharing of this information needs to be carefully managed with owners and consumers of data clearly identified. Much of this information is widely distributed and also fits well in a cloud identity service. We have already discussed at some length how identity data is spread across an organization, that is as per enterprise use cases or the internet as per consumer use cases. In both of these scenarios, we believe that a good deal of this information is already in the cloud in some capacity. Adding context-based data to identities will also heavily leverage cloud-based services since much of that data is already in the cloud. Furthermore, leveraging the cloud to provide data supporting security and threat assessments will be critical to future security and risk programs. The next generation of identity and access management stretches beyond the traditional enterprise to the broader internet at large, eliminating borders rather than being constrained by enterprise firewalls. This involves scaling services from supporting thousands or tens of thousands of identities to supporting hundreds of thousands or potentially millions of personal identities, as well as an untold number of objects or things. These elements support the movement to cloud-based identity management. There are two fundamental approaches to cloud-based identity access management, which are as follows. First is from the bottom up. As might be expected, the focus of these cloud-first offerings has greatly leveraged the multi-tenancy, elasticity, and scalability that cloud-based architectures provide, but often lack the maturity, overall breadth of capabilities, and scope of integration found in many more traditional on-premises IAM suite offerings. Second fundamental approach is from the top down, where more traditional, mature, on-premises IAM suite vendors have begun to transition their products to the cloud, either facilitating hosted deployments of their more monolithic single-tenant architectures or through managed service providers that will host and manage these deployments on behalf of the customer. The catch here is that while these IAM suite products offer a broader set of capabilities and provide a greater range of integration options, fundamentally they were not designed with the cloud in mind. They tend to be much more complex to deploy and manage, often requiring extensive customization. Hosting these solutions to the cloud either have required virtualized packaging of the offering to facilitate hosting on IaaS platforms, or the skill of the managed service provider to stand up the necessary instance for each customer. This leaves organizations in a position at this point in time of having to choose between two less than ideal options. One, the cloud native approach that is simple and easy to use and supports future technology trends, but is not as full featured or as capable of addressing the broader set of IAM requirements. Or second is one that is more mature, feature rich with better integration, and can satisfy most IAM requirements, yet remains very complex and unwieldy to manage and is largely on-premise centric. This will change over the next several years as vendors begin to leverage the strengths of both the bottoms-up and top-down approaches to build what we call a full-service IDaaS offering that combines the scalability of a cloud-based service with the governance, provisioning, and integration offered by traditional on-premise IAM offerings. This will be necessary to manage the largely hybrid environments we expect will be maintained in most large enterprise over the next 5 years, and this is the direction we believe most large enterprise should be moving towards. Digital identity suffers from different downsides, which make life harder for users and organizations. A new approach to digital identity comes with the concept of self-sovereign identity, which aims at giving back to the user full control on its identity. Self-sovereign identity is all about allowing users to control their own identity attributes. While a great idea, there has been significant difficulties in the industries to make this happen. Keeping information encrypted in a decentralized blockchain can be a determinant as much as it could be a savior. 2021 will be about figuring where the line is between user control and user security and figuring out how much we can really decentralize identity. What role does blockchain play, and perhaps more importantly, what role doesn't it play in supporting self-sovereign identity? Blockchain or distributed ledgers can provide greater discoverability of an identity and secure connections to the data needed to support a transaction. Daniel Butcher, the head of distributed identity at Microsoft, nicely articulated how blockchain might support IAM at a recent conference. He said, blockchain anchored identifiers linked to identity hubs encoded with semantic data are the agar upon which apps and services will grow. So, blockchain can provide the identity anchor, allow for discovery, and be the immutable, unforgeable record to link an identifier to an object. But what it can't do without help is to determine what is needed for a particular transaction to be satisfied. Am I old enough to purchase alcohol? Am I credit worthy? Do I live in the US? For this, we need an extension to the blockchain identity anchor. Answering these questions require another element. This new piece in the modern identity puzzle is called a verifiable claim. As organizations progress toward digital transformation, entities need to be able to transmit instantly verifiable claims. Example about their location, accomplishments, value, and so forth, providing electronic proof that the claim is valid. These claims can support the next generation of web applications as they provide the basis for authorizing entities to perform actions based on rich sets of credentials issued by trusted parties. Human and machine mediated decisions about job applications, account access, collaboration, and professional development will depend on filtering and analyzing growing amounts of data. What would some typical architectures and use cases look like? We will have to go back to the future. Technologies such as Identity Federation using OpenID Connect, OAuth, and SAML will be necessary in order to broker authentication events centrally and assert user identities to online service resource providers. This will be yet another massive effort because organizations' existing IT systems will need to be retrofitted to use Federation. Any sensitive data like patient health information would be stored using data masking and tokenization, or as we have discussed, using a blockchain, such that the theft of these data would be completely worthless. Last but not the least, for a blockchain and verifiable claim-based self-sovereign identity system to work, in the real world there need to be a governance model and a trust framework that allows for independent identities and claims to be shared with confidence. This is an area we will watch closely over the next several years as its progress will be an indicator as to how quickly this space may mature for larger enterprises. Looking ahead this year, the pandemic will continue to drive business interactions with consumers online. Customer Identity and Access Management (CIAM) products should see explosive growth as these technologies will be essential for securing digital storefronts and providing enhanced experiences. We haven't been able to create a globally approved solution for managing online identities, but the future is looking bright as we have seen a growth in collaboration and communication between the world's identity leaders both in government and the private sector. The recent constraints on physical businesses have pushed organizations to accelerate plans to move operations to the digital world, often shrinking timelines from years to months. Within this context, the dependence on online commerce has increased significantly and new sales models are blossoming. Global e-commerce sales are expected to reach more than $6.5 trillion by 2023, as explained in an article by e-commerce giant Shopify. Companies across all sectors, such as those in banking, retail, healthcare, public, education, transportation, and logistics, energy and utilities, and manufacturing, are increasingly leveraging the internet to provide necessary products and services to consumers. However, as organizations pivot to digital infrastructures, they increasingly face challenges and tension as the need to ensure customer trust and privacy pull against the importance of providing exceptional user experience across all touchpoints. A strong security and CIAM strategy will be essential to address these needs and ensure that information remains protected against outside threats. Today, identity has become the glue for all contextual marketing. The main objectives of CIAM is to drive revenue growth by leveraging identity data to acquire and retain consumers. It helps to build an identity-centric ecosystem to nurture an anonymous website visitor into a well-known loyal customer. The CIAM market is unsaturated and growing, and according to markets, it is projected to expand from 7.6 billion USD in 2020 to 15.3 billion USD by 2025 at the compound annual growth rate of 15.1%. The future of business has changed drastically due to the rapid advancement of the remote work era from the pandemic. Here are three key CIAM market trends that security professionals should be aware of as they finalize their 2021 plans. Growing adoption of digital strategies drives demand for CIAM. COVID-19 has pushed a wide range of businesses that were not previously digital driven, such as grocery stores and restaurants, to offer goods and services online. Such businesses are now forced to adopt digital strategies to survive and thrive. However, this also opens up entirely new opportunities. Where these businesses once largely maintained transactional relationships with customers, they can now start to use knowledge about consumer identities to build customer profiles, new partnerships, and new services that drive longer term and higher value relationships for the business and the customer alike. This imperative will drive demand for high performance, cost effective CIM solutions as businesses seek to focus on their core strengths rather than developing proprietary systems on their own. Providing customers control over their data is key. The pandemic ushered in growing demand for giving consumers control over the information they want access to or shared, more notably regulations around open healthcare. This puts identity front and center. Business must know who's who and who can have access to what in the digital world. At the same time, it's critical to offer an effortless and seamless experience that minimizes any barriers to consumers interacting online. Maintaining this delicate balance leads to another vital requirement: self service. Customers should be able to update and review their privacy preferences, such as using different emails for different activities, changing associate profile information, and updating contact information. At the same time, users should be able to adjust their security profiles by configuring recovery mechanisms and registering trusted devices for login. With the advancement of privacy regulations across the world, modern businesses must also give users data portability and the ability to deregister. CIEM solutions help to give consumer control over their data and keep it safe while creating positive user experiences and customer insights that help businesses increasing revenue and growth. Next is keeping data private. Privacy will no longer be a luxury but a necessity, and businesses will need to secure consumer data more so than ever before, as failure to do so will impact a company's reputation, stock, and sale price. With regulations such as California Consumer Privacy Act and General Data Protection Regulation coming into effect, and various other privacy laws making their ways through legislatures, allowing users to control their data and safeguarding privacy has become vital. Customers now expect businesses to reveal what information they gather, delete data if requested, and explicitly ask for consent to save and share data. As developer-friendly CIEM platforms continue to evolve in 2021, example, to further support areas like artificial intelligence, automation, and advanced authentication. So much the adoption of these platforms by businesses to ensure that customers are always protected.
With the Internet of Things and a rapid increase in connected devices, the lack of proper identity access management is a major concern. It leaves devices open to identity thefts, encryption, and unauthorized parties taking control of smart devices. This is further driving demand for a quick implementation of effective, fast IoT digital identity and security solutions. This rapid expansion of the Internet of Things also calls for a clearer common understanding of how identities function in the digital world. With Internet of Things made up of endless number of domains, the next challenge is how to manage the single and overlapping identities that come from them. The key? Being able to manage these multiple identities across different domains efficiently by employing the cross-domain identity management solution that best meets its specific requirements. It starts with the right building blocks. Technologies such as PKI, GBA, blockchain, OAuth, OpenID Connect, and eSIM management offer the foundations for a complete user-friendly, automated, and secure authentication and authorization solution. Despite its challenges, how does identity management evolve over the next few years in an environment that includes massive IoT deployments? Identity management systems will need to evolve to recognize the relationships between devices and people, applications, services. This will be important in 2021 in identifying the connected services and devices, but also critical in securing them and dealing with the complexities involving device ownership and access. Privilege access management is an integral part of identity and access management, wherein privilege accounts are constantly monitored and secured with stringent authentication techniques. Generally, the security protocols for privilege accounts are higher as compared to the normal security protocols for the entire organization. While it may seem like a no-brainer to implement PAM into every company's security program, PAM programs can cause problems. Simply put, they can slow things down. Privilege accounts are necessary and common to facilitate many enterprise IT operations. A local IT person might need to provision a server, an employee might need an emergency access after being locked out of an application, or developers and their IT teams might need to access different systems or databases to update or deploy applications. PAM can make all these things harder by ensuring that the person requesting privilege access is authorized. Privileged access management leverages a strong IAM infrastructure, and it should be a core part of any organization's security and risk management portfolio. PAM will also be tied into the corporate governance model to help enforce compliance. Organizations should manage PAM to a least privilege model where access is only granted when absolutely necessary, revoked upon completion of task, and rigorously monitored. Additional security should be applied to administrator with the highest order keys to the kingdom. PAM will continue to be a foundational infrastructure component for enterprises over the next 5 years. Today, all tech giants are embracing microservices as part of their technology and business strategies. But it's not just the giants embracing this approach. Companies of all sizes are realizing that microservices are an essential part of their business. But first, let's back up. What are microservices anyway? Microservices are small, loosely coupled services that make up a larger application. Unlike monolithic architecture, where all services and code are contained within a large and complex application, microservices are autonomous units that deliver on the various components of an application. While microservices provide ample benefits with regard to agility and productivity, they present a unique challenge when it comes to security. Each individual service requires authentication and authorization support to grant secure access to customers, third-party applications, and other microservices. There are two synergistic approaches emerging in 2021. Logically combining the development and operations groups into a single entity referred to as DevOps with a primary focus on agile development, the antithesis of the waterfall model, coupled with microservices architecture and deployment strategies that break down business functions into atomic level IT functions or services that can be reused, retrofitted, and replaced with minimal disruption to the overall IT infrastructure. One of the most significant results of such a DevOps model is improved accessibility of identity and access management service functions such as user or thing authentication, authorization, lifecycle management, and audit readily available to application developers and integrators. Without an effort to move forward a better DevOps paradigm, enterprises will continue to suffer from siloed applications and services that will perpetuate the issues of disconnect that largely exist today. The adoption of password authentication is diminishing. Most of the massive cybercrimes happen because important accounts and applications are secured with passwords. Cyber attackers have scaled up their attacking techniques as well. They can hack even the most complex passwords easily. So, as an alternative, biometric authentication has seen good adoption rate. Essentially, biometrics is an authentication technique that uses unique user attributes such as voice, fingerprint, face, etc. to secure crucial accounts. For instance, when an account or application is secured with a thumbprint, what are the chances of your thumb impression being stolen or hacked? Very little, right? Biometrics is a far more secure and convenient way to authenticate and secure accounts as opposed to passwords. As we are still shifting away from passwords, organizations will ensure that full access to non sensitive data is given for all, while a zero trust approach becomes the norm for higher sensitivity data. The higher the access, the less passwords will be the recipe of the authentication. Trends have shown we are already shifting to biometric authentication, and these will be more favorable in a multi factor combination for access to higher sensitivity data. While sentiment of behavioral analytics still isn't high for many consumers, the industry sees its potential for greatly reducing fraud and cybercrime. 2021 will not discourage investors from continuing to explore this new technology with the aim of implementing it in the coming years, initially in a less invasive or noticeable way for consumers.
As organizations continue to invest in the cloud, there will be increased frustration over access management and security, especially as organizations grow. The way to combat this is to implement single sign-on for all cloud services, and 2021 will be the year that organizations adopting SSO will increase dramatically in size. We covered many approaches in our presentation, initiatives, and trends, and there are some common overarching themes that are crucial for all organizations to consider. The Iem Architecture Principles, Identity Data Services, Federation, Loose Coupling, and Standard Based Integration are fundamental keys for successfully addressing today's and tomorrow's IAM burden. An architecture built on these principles will help an organization become ready to quickly integrate emerging BYOID approaches, including blockchain, OpenID Connect, and OAuth. Additionally, such an architecture provides the scalability and elasticity to effectively support the identity of things by eliminating and monolithic single purpose approaches that incorporate specific groups of things as one of solutions. Embrace the cloud. It is here to stay. These architecture principles will help one become cloud ready and may in fact enable moving the IAM infrastructure from on-premises into the cloud. Be bullish about standards and do not let any vendor, large or small, steer you away from standard protocols and interfaces. We are now in an era of progress, not perfection, meaning that absolute perfection comes at the expense of interoperability. Think big picture and set your organization up for more flexible, governable, and scalable identity management functions that will yield benefits now and far into the future. With these principles in mind, many organizations must rethink their current IAM strategies. The tactical efforts to process a problem that have proliferated over the past few decades has left many organizations with a hodgepodge of siloed, poorly or non-interoperable IAM functions that become impossible to govern properly and hinder proper risk management. Doing the same things the same way by just throwing more money at it doesn't solve the root of the problem, which is the need for the cohesive, well-designed architecture strategy that takes into account flexibility, scalability, and cloud readiness.
In our today's presentation on future of identity and access management, we have tried to include thought-provoking perspectives of many industry leaders and summarize the salient features your organizations could use in your identity and access management programs in the context of where the identity and access management industry is going. We hope our presentation was informative to you, and we would love to hear about your identity and access management journeys. Our contact details are on the next slide. So until next time, stay safe, take care, and goodbye.
Goodbye. Thanks for joining us and stay safe.